Testing 1, 2. All right. So what's going on, guys? Donnie Rouse here, and today is a special episode, especially if you've ever had an epic trip and you come back home and you're feeling in that you're in that lower state, or you feel like, man, you're back to that day to day. So we're just gonna go right into it. Hi, guys. My name is Donnie Rouse, and you are listening to the podcast One Life, Mastering the Come Down. Have you ever gone on a trip where you've had an epic experience where literally you've made friends, you've had experiences, once in a lifetime experiences maybe, and as a result of having this extreme high, now you've come home and now you feel like you're in a very, very low state. I know over the course of my life and in all of my travels, this has happened many times. And in the past, I didn't really understand how to rebound from that, because sometimes I would come back off a trip and it would take me months, literally months, to get back on track and to remember what it was I was going after, and to feel that passion, that inspiration again. But because your time is, your time is very valuable, right? We don't want to spend months rebounding and remembering what it was we were going for in the first place, right? We want to be able to bounce back really quick. So some of the solutions that I'm going to go over in this, as I tell a story of a good friend of mine who was experiencing exactly that, a friend from my most recent travel, is the first is to know, like, how clear are you about what it is that you want? Secondly, use the inspiration from the trip, right? When you were there, what were some of the emotions that what you were conjuring up? What were some of the inspirations you got in terms of the changes you wanted to make to your life? And then lastly is to look at your current circumstances and see the opportunities, because it's very easy to fall in the habit of coming back and thinking that everything's shit and that nothing is working, when in reality, all it really is just a small shift in your mindset that is needed to open up the doors to new possibility. So I was connecting with one of my good friends that I met on my most recent trip. I met this person in Taipei. And he traveled, after I came back home, he traveled for, I think, like several weeks afterward before going back to his home country. Having the first call with him today, since we had parted our ways, I was just asking, well, how does it feel to be back? I was showing him pictures or a video of like my amazing view of the water. And I was asking him, I was like, well, so how does it feel to be back? And he was very honest with me. He said, to be honest with you, he's like, I feel like I'm in this low state, and I don't know what to do next. I mean, I could go, do I get a job in corporate? Do I get my own apartment in Hamburg? So he lives in Hamburg, and he was working corporate, and he went back to his parents' home because he had gotten rid of his apartment, and now he's trying to figure out, well, what is the next step for me? Maybe you're in a place where you've had an experience that was left you feeling this high, like that anything was possible back in life, but all of a sudden you're thrust back into your day-to-day routines, and now all of a sudden the opportunities that were there, it seems like they faded, or like they were like a reverie. So I asked him, I said, well, what was it that you felt when you were when you were traveling? He said, well, I felt that, I want to live abroad. I wanted to experience that, because you know what? This is such a unique time in my life. I mean, when am I ever going to be able to do this again? And then he went on to say, but, where am I going to find the work? Like, it's very difficult to find, remote work, or a company that's going to let you work remote. And, so maybe I'll just get an apartment here and I'll just stay in Hamburg. The cool thing about this was that as he was telling me the story, he caught himself in a lie. He caught himself believing in a narrative that hasn't even been disproven. Right? There is one of his best friends actually works abroad, works for a German company, and is able to work remotely, and he literally is traveling around the world. So he caught himself in that, which was the fact that he had awareness was extremely good. Then I asked him, I said, all right, well, the fact that he said when he thought about working remote, and he was using terminology, he was using words that were more uplifting and vibrant and full of energy. He used the word inspiring, and you could see you could see his facial reaction changing as he was talking about the idea of traveling. When he talked about living and staying, like in his hometown, then all of a sudden, like the energy dropped. But isn't that true, right? You have these big inspirations, but then you go back to the day-to-day routines and you fall into the habitual patterns of thinking. And all of a sudden, those inspirations that you had, all of a sudden, they seem very lackluster, and like you can't even remember them, to be honest with you. They were sharp when you were inspired, and all of a sudden now they've just like dulled and waned. It is very always that case unless you keep it at the forefront of your mind. So I encouraged him. I said, well, listen, you're right, because you don't have another opportunity. This is the only opportunity you have, meaning like now is the only time you have. And looking at his work experience, and because he caught himself in that narrative, and so I elaborated. I said, listen, he makes video, he does like video editing and content. His work, or his line of work, is extremely relevant and opens you up to, it's wide open to the possibility of working remote, right? So it was an internal dialogue that was throwing him off. We went on to speak further, and he was starting to tell me about just, like that he lacked clarity. Like he's like, you know what? I'm saying why it's not going to work, but I'm not really sure what it is that I want. Like I know I want to like live. I want to live outside the country, trying things, but I'm not really sure where. But it's so often the case, right? Don't you know that you vaguely want something, but you're not really sure about what it is? So as a result of that, having that vagueness, you don't take any action at all. You just kind of put it off, and you're like, all right, well, I'm not really sure, so I guess just stay doing what I'm doing. It is all too familiar, and it's a trap. And I'm saying this because everyone is susceptible to it. The one thing that you must do is realize is that action is what gives you more specificity. The contrast of the experiences is what gives you more specificity. So the only way to get more specific, the only way to really figure out what it is you want, is to start moving in a direction. And then lastly, with the clarity, I shared him, I shared him like the vision for my health, my health and wellness. And I was telling him, so the last couple weeks, not really the last week, literally like the last month and a half. So since I was traveling in Europe, I tend to be more regimented. Not tend to be, I am more regimented with my meals whenever I am home, wherever that home may be. When I travel, I am more open to even different foods, just because, one, I'm not meal prepping anything, right? And plus, I want to try the local cuisine. So in Asia, I was eating all types of things that I normally would not eat, especially red meat. And as a result, and I was drinking too, like having beers, sharing it with friends. It was a very social thing, and I really enjoy that. And then when I came back here, because I was going to be moving to Miami, like that week of that 1 week in between my move, I wasn't, I tried meal prepping, but like I was missing meals. As a result, I was like dropping weight. And then the drive down to Miami, the 4 days it took me to get down here, 3-4 days. I mean, I was eating, sometimes I would skip a meal and have like a little bit of a protein shake, again, losing weight. Or I would go to places and the food I would have like wasn't the best, right? I mean, I saw like I could tell you what I ate, like ramen. I don't even know what I ate. Oh my, anyways. But the point I'm trying to make is it's not food that I would typically eat. It was outside of my diet and what I would consider a healthy diet. And because that I wasn't settled in one place, that I was just going for what was easiest. Thankfully, I did have some protein shakes, and I did have a lot of fruit on the drive. I'd like eat apples, bananas, but I had some protein shakes, and I would take that usually as my breakfast. But then my evening would be something that I wouldn't traditionally eat. The point I'm trying to make is that when I came here, and I was telling them when I came down to Miami after my siblings came, and I should start with that as well. So my siblings were visiting as well as my parents, and again, eating things that I normally wouldn't eat and drinking a little bit more excessive than I normally would, just because where I was out with my brothers. Again, not saying that I have to drink. There was no pressure to drink, but we were out, and it's kind of like I enjoyed it. I had fun with my siblings. Now that they've left, I did all my meal prep, and I started eating a more balanced diet. I started moving more. I started doing my exercise. I started going to the beach for sunrise, the other side for sunset, and doing the things that really that feed my wellness and my health. In that time, like when they left, I was it came to my mind the vision. Well, what is it that I really want? Like, what is for this area of my life, right? Because your health is your most important area. Because if you don't have your health, you really don't have shit, right? If you feel lousy, you don't feel like doing work. You don't feel like building your relationships. You don't feel like doing anything. So my health was extremely important to me, especially since I have, I'm going in for to get a hernia surgery. I'm flying back up to Connecticut today. But all this, it made me reflect on what is the vision for my health, right? And I literally have it right here in this book here. This is the vision for my life. And I was talking to my friend, and I started reading it. I said, listen, let me show you the power of clarity. And so I started reading through the vision I had for my health, talking about like feeling vital, feeling ripped, feeling strong, and all the reason, like the vision, as well as all the reasons why and why I wanted to have this vision for my life, why it was so important to make it real. And of course, as I'm reading this vision to him, I'm like, he sees me, I'm getting smiley, I'm getting even more pumped up. I was about to have like another shot of espresso. I decided to put that away. And the point I'm trying to make here is that it is by having that vision, right? It's not enough just to have the vision, right? You need to have the vision for your life, but you also need to look at it, right? Because if you're looking at it every once in a while, right? It's like a picture, like like a memory. I gave him the example of being on a trip. We had just came back from an epic trip. I was like, listen, go look at the pictures. Feel the emotions that you felt in that moment, and remember the inspirations as to why you want what you want. Why do you want to live remote? Why do you want to live in different parts of the world? And let that bring that clarity back. Just like as I was reading my vision for my health, why I was getting all excited, because now I literally, it's like the focus on a camera, right? It's kind of blurry. You can make out something, but as you start to turn that dial, all of a sudden the picture gets sharper, and as a result of getting more sharp, now all of a sudden the more emotion is attached to it. So that is what having that vision and reflecting on it frequently will give you. It just keeps you aligned. It keeps you aligned with the decisions. It avoids and pushes away the distraction, because you know that it's not going to take you where you want to go. So you're like, you know what? I'm not entertaining that. And so he started to smile. I saw that, it had changed his state when he was thinking about it. Now he's like, well, you know what? Yeah, there are opportunities. I just have to start looking and getting more clarity. So how does this relate to your life? Right? Maybe, it doesn't have to be a trip, although I think in most cases when someone comes back from like a vacation, they usually have like all the, oh wow, I could live in Greece, and they come back and like FML. But there's these inspirations that come when we are outside of that day-to-day routine and we start to see things differently. When you go back, then all of a sudden now you're like, well, no, that's not reality. The truth is your reality is whatever you want it to be, right? If you wanted to live on an island in Greece and open up a taco stand, you can do that, right? It's just all the reasons that you're telling yourself as to why you can't. Which leads me to the lessons of this podcast here of this episode. One, what is it, like what were the inspirations that you felt when you were having this experience, right? If it was an experience that you had years ago, like go look at some pictures, remember, get acquainted with the emotions that you had during that time, with the thoughts you were having, with the people and the experiences. Write that down, capture that, because when you're in that peak state, that's when all of the good, juicy stuff comes. That's when the visions come, because you're in an inspired state. Secondly, how clear are you on your vision? Right? Like, does it feel out of focus, or do you feel like, like you are sharp and just the thought of it inspires you? If you'd watched the previous episode, I had spoken about how a friend reminded me as to all the reasons why I moved out to Miami in the first place. And once she reminded me, and it wasn't just enough to remind me, because I had thought about that too. I'm like, yeah, well, I came to Miami because I wanted to do A, B, and C. Gosh. Yeah, but I don't know if it's going to work, right? But once I took the action, which leads me to number 3, once you start to take the action, all of a sudden you start to get momentum. You start to build momentum. And then when you're going in the right direction, you start to feel the emotions. But if you're not going in the right direction, you'll also feel the opposite emotions, right? You'll be like, you know what, this doesn't feel right. But before you go there, I want you to just kind of give yourself the grace of trying it on for size, allowing yourself to build like a small routine. This way you can see what it really feels like, rather than let the just that mood that is currently over you, like kind of like taint the experience of what it is that you want. And then when you do that, again, just allow the feedback to guide your decisions. I'm gonna do a post on a special person that I met when I was out to dinner in Taipei, who literally, his message was one of simplicity, but it's one that will impact and guide you to the best life that you want and you were meant to live. So I hope in this, in some way, helped you just get a little bit more clear and realize that, experiences do follow that wave. But you can actually rebound faster when you remember what it is you want, the experiences you want to have, when you change your focus to looking at the possibilities and not in questioning your current belief system in the status quo, because it's easy to fall back into old patterns of thinking when you're not in that inspired state. So get inspired, first of all. Go move your body. And so I hope this impacts your day. I hope this helps you make some new decisions that will move your life in the direction you want to go. Because remember, you only get one life. Live fully, live passionately, and most of all, live now. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I